From BLC Studios in Mankato, Minnesota, this is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Dunkin, with your host, Shane Frederick.
This is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Dunkin. My name is Shane Frederick. I'm the host, and joining me today is Minnesota State sophomore defenseman Jake Livingstone. How you doing today, Jake?
Really good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. Good to meet you. We were just talking before we started recording about COVID last year, and Jake being a freshman. I didn't really get to know him very well. Saw him on the Zoom a few times, watched him play, but didn't have that interaction that I was so used to having for 20 years with different guys going to practices and interviewing people after practice and after games. So a little bit different situation. So it's great to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
A little bit about Jake. Timely that he's here today. He's the CCHA Defenseman of the Week after having a fine weekend against St. Thomas in a sweep over it wasn't really the weekend. It was Thursday, Saturday with a 9-0 victory at home and a 5-0 win on Saturday up in the Twin Cities. Congratulations on that award. And what? How did you think you guys played this weekend?
I thought we played really well. Obviously, the back-to-back shutouts with Dryden, he had a really good weekend. Our whole team was just kind of playing really well, doing the little things right. Like, even though it was a 9-0 game, I thought we kind of didn't let it get away from us, and we stuck to the details, which is important. Don't want to lose those good habits and don't want to create bad ones. So I just thought all around we had a good weekend from top to bottom.
You know, I know that game on Thursday, 9-0. St. Thomas scores with 26 seconds left, and there's a challenge for offsides, and I think a lot of outside observers would say, really, it's a 9-0 game, what does it matter? But the shutout matters, right? I mean, as a player, there's got to be some appreciation for your coach to have his goaltenders back there, and from a defensive standpoint to know that, hey, that goal shouldn't have counted. Got to give Dryden, give him another notch on his very long belt of shutouts.
Yeah, I agree. We have to give that one to Regner, our hockey ops guy. He talked, I think he said it to Scoots and was like, hey, I think that was offside. And I mean, the more shutouts we can tally to Dryden, the better, keep him going on that. So that's kind of nice.
You know, as a defenseman coming in, I mean, he had a lot of shutouts his first 2 years. You come in as a freshman last year. What was your first experience like, having him backstopping you guys and he had a really good, strong start to the year last year as well with some shutouts. What's it like having a goaltender like that behind you?
I'd say it's comforting. It's nice to know, he's got your back. You make a bad play or turnover or something, 95% of the time, I'm sure Dryden's going to make the save. So you don't want to leave him out to dry too much. You want to do your job, but I know it's a comforting feeling knowing that he's back there for sure.
And for you, you're a guy who's not afraid to jump into the rush and get some offense going. You have 15 points already in 14 games. That's one more than you had all of last year in 28 games. So on pace to more than double your efforts. Does it make you more comfortable to get your offense going when you have him playing back there the way he does?
Yeah, I think it does. It helps too with your D partners and stuff, and like the forwards, they do a good job of supporting you and, covering for you, or whenever you're up in the rush. Like, we don't really leave each other out to dry too much. I got to give credit a little bit to Reese and Molik, my D partner last year. Like, he helped me out a lot with that.
Yeah.
Just knowing, I had him, and then on top of that, I had Dryden back there helping me out. So it made me a little more comfortable to just kind of be myself and make some plays, and allowed me to make some mistakes and learn from them. Mm-hmm. So that I think was good. And my D partner this year, Wyatt, he helps me out too. Just another big solid guy back there that just kind of helps me be myself and really helps me learn every day.
Nice to see him score a goal on Thursday night, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Proves that he's got a pretty big shot too.
Yeah.
If he big heavy shot if he needs it.
Mm-hmm. It's lethal for sure.
Well, I think one of the most memorable plays in your career here, just a little over a year, came in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year, and I'm sure as a freshman coming in, it was told to you over and over the tough luck that this program has had in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, that game started off falling behind, you had to make the big comeback, and then of course in the third period, late in the game with the goaltender pulled, you make the great rush up the ice, kind of power your way through and past a couple of defenders and get down to the corner and dish right out to Cade Borcher, right, for the game tying goal. Of course, leads to the overtime win with the Ryan Sandlin goal. But can you walk us through that? I know it's been a long time, and I know you're moved on. You're in a different season here, but we got you on the podcast here, and I just be interested in knowing what you kind of saw on that play, and what you decided to do. I mean, it's obviously pulled goaltender, desperate moments, but you certainly seemed like you weren't playing desperate there. Like you had some purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole game, we kind of just knew that was our game. Like I think we had a tough start in the first period there, and they got off to, I think it was a 2-goal lead in the first period.
Yep.
Or it might have been, yeah. So, but then leading into the second, like end of the first, like we started really going, and like our offensive zone play was just really good, like holding possessing pucks down low, and like we kind of knew like pucks just weren't going in. Goalie was making big saves and stuff like that, and like we were hitting posts and stuff. I remember our first goal came in the second. It was Dremko, and it was a dump in, and then it wrapped around. The guy missed a puck, and we shot it on net from the blue line.
Right.
He tipped it, and it was like weird how a goal like that went in. And so I think deep down we kind of knew, like, hey, like I think we got this game. Like we got to keep pushing. I know we're kind of snake bitten with tournament games and stuff like that. Like, so just kind of through that play, I mean, there were a couple guys who were out there for a while. I remember Nathan Smith was on my left side when I entered the blue line, and I remember he said to me, he's like, I'm happy you didn't pass me that puck, because he was hunched over and he's been out for a while, and he's in pretty good shape, so he's been out there for a while for sure.
Uh-huh.
So I just remember that, and then I remember getting to the corner and just kind of peeking over my right shoulder, and I saw Borch, and I think Drydens was coming to the net, and then I just kind of threw the puck that direction, was like, hey, they're wide open, like it's going to hit somebody. And Borch put in the net, and we were all just so shocked and just happy. And yeah, I remember going into the period into overtime, and I just remember I was like, oh man, we earned this one, like we got to have it. So we were all kind of buzzing. OT just took over again, and then Sandy with the nice goal.
Yeah. It must have been it must have been fun to be part of that, and just the way that played out, and kind of watching a program's luck kind of flip on its head a little bit.
Yeah, it was really sweet, especially for those older guys, like I said, like Reese and Jack and all those guys. And you don't see Coach like with a whole lot of emotion very often, and he showed some emotion coming into the dressing room, and like he was fired up. Our whole team, like it was good for us, I guess, for as freshmen, me and Akito and like Grega and stuff. It was a little different because I mean we want to go into that expecting like just like the whole team did, but I feel like in the back of those guys' heads was like, hey, like, geez, like this has happened before, like here it comes again. So for them to kind of get over that hump, who has been through it all and been through the program for so long, and they finally get over it, and to see their excitement was really, really huge and exciting for us. It's a great moment, and I think one that's I think between that goal and the overtime winner, just two great plays to watch, and thank goodness for YouTube, and you can go back and people can watch that and enjoy it, because two pretty special plays in this program's history to beat Quinnipiac, and then go on and shut out Minnesota and get to the first Frozen Four in team history. Yeah, it was something special for sure. That game against Minnesota, I mean, we were just kind of rolling with our momentum that we had, and obviously Dryden stands on his head again.
Yeah.
And we just played really good defensive hockey, and they just couldn't keep up with our speed, and we just played hard and physical, and I don't think they've seen something like that in a while. So I think that was another game where, like, hey, like, we just got to play our game, and we know we got this. Like, we're fine.
Right. And, and then you get the St. Cloud game, and it's a back and forth game with a crazy tip at the end. And, unfortunately you don't get to the national championship game, but a great NCAA tournament nonetheless, to kind of get this program maybe taken to another level.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that game was tough, obviously. It's like you don't really understand that, like when everybody says it's a game of inches, until you see a tip like that go in, and like it has to be that perfect, and so stuff like that's hard. But I mean, it's good for a program. Like now we got that Frozen Four under our belt. Now if we get there this year, everybody's going to have more experience, and we're all going to be way more ready for it. So in a way, it's good, and it sucks to kind of bite that, which, I mean, you got to do it sometimes.
Right. Well, this season, I mean, it's you're over a quarter way through the season, and off to a great start. You guys are number 1 in the country again this week. And you're on a little bit of a roll here, winning 5 in a row after that tough loss at Ferris State on the Friday night. Really, from the second period on, from that game through right now, you guys have been on a pretty good roll. What's kind of been what's flipped the switch, would you say, over that time?
I'd say we're not complacent where we are right now. Like, we know, you're number 1 in the nation. Like, it means something, I guess, in a way, but at the same time, we know it literally kind of does mean nothing. And I think that Ferris game kind of gave us a wake-up call, like, hey, we're not that good. Like, we got to be dialed in every night. And it kind of pushed us, I guess, every week from then on to kind of just keep improving, because you never know, other teams are improving too. So we just got to kind of keep getting better, and the coaching staff does a good job of that and keeping holding guys accountable, and we do that a good job as teammates as well. To hold each other accountable, just keep getting better so we know where we want to end at the end of the year.
It's quite an offensive explosion over that time. I mean, with I think the most stunning result was probably the 9 goals you guys scored against Bowling Green. Who's been a really tough opponent, which I'm sure you found out about last year too. I mean, they're just tough and physical, and games have been close. There was a long stretch of games I can remember where it seemed like every time Minnesota State and Bowling Green played, there was a split and 1-goal game, overtime game, whatever it might be. And to see you guys put up 9 that night, it just seemed like it was a little bit different situation. And then you go into the next night and score 3 in the first period. It's kind of just it was an impressive barrage of goals, and you guys kind of kept it going.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, definitely helps when we're at home too, kind of when we get that first one or anything for momentum, and just kind of get the guys feeling good. But I've heard about a lot of guys will talk about the old Bowling Green team and how they're heavy, tough to play against. I remember our trainer, Matt Schmidt, he always says, like, we wouldn't get out of that weekend without somebody being hurt. And I'd talk to their trainer, and their guys would be hurt. So, I mean, that kind of rivalry is just always good to have too. And obviously the teams have changed since then, but I mean, it's good. It's good to have that rivalry still, especially after that game. I think it was 2 years before I got here, the championship game for the WCHA. Like, that kind of stuff just builds rivalries, so it's always fun.
Yeah. You mentioned playing at home and that experience. Obviously, last year as a freshman, you come in and it's COVID year and very few people, if any, in the stands, depending on when they started letting a few in. What was your first experience like this year after going through it for a year with no fans, having some big crowds, that St. Cloud State series, for instance, that you started the home schedule with, and even the Bowling Green weekend? What was that like for you to experience after a year of kind of empty arenas?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I remember the biggest shock that I got was our first ever game. That was in the UMass weekend when they were raising the banner.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I remember going out, and I was going on the bench with Wyatt and Celia, and we always do our thing, and it was before we even get dressed, and the crowd was packed, and I was like, holy, like, this is what it's like. You have no idea, right? Like, especially after last year, even the Frozen Four, it was like there's barely anybody in the stands.
Right.
You think it would be packed. So that was my first experience where I'm like, holy, like, this is nuts. I remember they were chanting overrated to Dryden and warm up and stuff like that. But the first game at home is always cool. You always see, like, the pre-game, I guess, like, where they announce the starting lineup and stuff, and that one song that always gets going. I always talk about it with Borch when they show, like, the highlights and stuff from the Jumbotron. That kind of gets you going in the crowd, starts yelling and stuff. So the home games, we're always pretty lucky to have the pretty packed building every night. So it's always something good. And you never want to take it for granted, really. I'm lucky that I had that first year with COVID, because now I'm like, every game, I'm like, this is sweet. Like, you enjoy it more.
That's interesting. Yeah, that you kind of appreciate that. And yeah, it's a great atmosphere. And as I mentioned to you before, I covered the team for 20 years, and there were some tough times when the crowds weren't into it, or the students weren't showing up, or there was no band. And now it's just that great college experience with the band. I don't know how much you can hear them from where you are.
Yeah,
and stuff,
pretty good every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's always good though. We enjoy it. I mean, we got to put on a good show for the fans to keep coming back. So that's a good sign that they do, which is nice. And it's just always, we're really fortunate to have them show up, and as many as they do, it's nice.
You say put on a good show. I mean, Coach Hastings talks about that a lot of that. That it's hard because you're playing a sport. You're thinking about your future as a hockey player. If you got professional aspirations, which I'm sure you do, and a lot of your teammates do. But at the same time, you're in this kind of entertainment aspect. People go there, they buy a ticket. They're socially, they want to experience something that's a lot of fun, whether it's the band, the crowd, the between period stuff. But then it falls upon you guys to put on a good show.
Yeah.
Make sure you score some goals. Yeah. Make sure you protect your goaltender. That puts a little bit of extra pressure on you to make sure, at least at home, that you're putting on a good show.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good thing though. I mean, a lot of guys perform like better under pressure. If there's more fans and stuff like that, you just kind of feel that energy. I feel like it goes both ways. You just build off each other really to help, and they do a good job of keeping energized to help us perform well. Because some nights, I mean, I'm sure we're not playing our best, and they're still being loud. So I think we just feed off each other like in a way, and that's really good. That's what whole building's all about. So
right. Did you experience any of that when you came in for a visit? When you were being recruited, when you came to MSU, did you have, was it a good night, good crowd night, or anything like that?
Yeah, it had been 2 years ago when they had the ASU at home.
Okay.
The home opener.
Sure.
Back nights. Yeah. So I came for the first game, and then I had a game 2 nights after, so I had to go home right after. But yeah, it was packed. Like, it was sweet. It was one of those things where I'm like, yeah. And I remember coming here. This is the first school I came to. And I had plans to go on visits other places. And I just remember when I left, I was like, I told my mom and dad, like, this is it. Like, I'm coming here. Like, that's it for me. And I just didn't even bother. I just told those other schools, like, hey, I'm done.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was it? What really flipped it for you? What made you decide that?
I think it's more, obviously the coaching staff had a huge thing to do with that. And then obviously the players that they develop and stuff like that, and the type of people they are.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I could go around our whole locker room and tell you like a single thing where I'm like, they're all great humans. Like, they're all genuine. They all care. Like, we all care about each other. Like, we're all just like, there's just things that you wouldn't see if you didn't come. And it's just like, we're just a huge family. Like, I remember I had a meeting with Coach on my visit, and he was just talking about like, hey, we're a family here. Like, obviously your family at home comes first. And that's important to me because I'm a huge family guy, like stuff like that. So he's like, that comes first, but after that, it's like, it's our family here. It's like the Mav family is what he calls it all the time. So that whole aspect of it, I was like, you know what, like, this is it for me. Like, this is what I want to be. I want somebody that's going to push me every day. I want people that are going to push me every day. But then when I leave the rink, if I'm not doing so well, somebody's going to be like, hey, are you okay? Like, and they're going to know me well enough to be like, he's not doing all right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And born and raised in BC.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's quite a long jaunt to Mankato from there.
Yeah.
Did you have aspirations of college hockey as a young kid? I mean, did you know a lot about college hockey? I'm sure everyone wants to be you're probably a Canuck, right? I assume is that your team?
I'm not. I hate the Canucks.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
I'm not a fan of the Canucks. I'm a Flames guy myself.
Okay. All right.
I don't know why.
I shouldn't assume, I guess,
yeah.
Right?
My whole life, me and my brother have always hated like the Sedins, like just everything about the Canucks. We couldn't have been happier when Boston came back from a 3-1 deficit. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I never really had much of like college growing up. I think it was when I got to Langley and my junior team there.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking to myself like, hey, like, this is where I'm going to like thrive, because I was a late bloomer. Mm-hmm. This is where I'm going to have to take my route if I want to do what I love for the rest of my life. So I started thinking about that, and I had to kind of get my grades together because I didn't think I was going to go to school. So I was like, it's not important. I had to get my grades together for 2 years, and then I kind of thought to myself, like, yeah, this is it for me. And I remember I committed to Fairbanks my 19-year-old year, and I thought to myself, like, okay, like, I really want to go to school, and it started becoming a thing. Like, I can't wait. And then with what was going on with the program, I decided to leave, and then it ended up being like, holy, like, this is really a thing for me. Like, more schools are interested, kind of thing.
Oh wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was that at the time when the Alaska schools were going through some a lot of questions about their future that first time around before they kind of got their footing again. And obviously they're kind of going through that again. Alaska's playing this year, but Anchorage is not. So it's interesting up there right now.
Yeah, that's why I was just like, maybe for my future, I should try and look elsewhere, which kind of sucks at the same time because I'm a pretty loyal person. Like once I commit to something and to you or whatever, I'm like, I'm going to stick there.
Yeah.
But I remember having a long conversation with my family and being like, hey, this is just not the right fit for me.
It's tough. I mean, that's just a tough situation. And if you can find something that works out better and that's hopefully no hard feelings either way, and you make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very thankful for it. I made the best decision of my life, I think, when I decided to come here. So I'm happy about that. You just finished the home and home with St. Thomas. You're heading to Lake Superior State this weekend. A little travel on Thanksgiving Day, going to the Sioux. Did you guys play up there last year? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, we did.
Okay,
yeah.
So it could be. I know that can be a tough place to play when there's a crowd there. So that'll be interesting. I know Coach Hastings has talked about that a lot. It can be some unique fan experiences at that arena. So. But it's a long trip. You go way up there to the eastern end of the Upper Peninsula and then take that long bus ride home afterwards.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, it should be a good weekend. We're all looking forward to it. Any weekend we get to play, it's just one of those things like we took for granted years before until last year when weekends got taken away from us. So
sure.
Now we're just thankful to go wherever. Sometimes you like to go other places more than others, but at the same time, you're just thankful to go and be able to play hockey.
Did you have a favorite road trip last year, even though without the crowd, or are you kind of developing that this year a little bit?
Yeah, well, favorite road trip in general would probably been either Loveland or the Frozen Four. The Frozen Four was sweet, just a sweet experience for sure. And being to Pittsburgh, I've never been to Colorado either. That was cool for me. Just kind of that whole experience there. That was sweet. A lot of guys say they like Bemidji and like Tech or Northern, those type of schools.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went to Tech and Northern and Bemidji last year. I like the Bemidji one. Just kind of everything's around the rink. You just got to walk to the rink whenever. The hotel's right there. That's kind of nice. Yeah. It's a tough building to play in too, even without fans. So I don't know if I have a favorite in the division yet though.
Yeah, just wait till you get to Tech with fans. That's another place with really good band, really good atmosphere, good crowd that's into it. I still have some headaches in my head from some of the games there with the band going on, especially when their team's on the penalty kill, when you're on the power play. I think that's when they clang the bell over and over and over again. So
I didn't experience that last year, so I'm not sure. I'll be in for a rude awakening, I'm sure.
That's right. A lot to look forward to. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast. It's great to get to know you a little bit, and I wish you nothing but luck the rest of the way here this season.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you as well.
U.S. Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
the Canadian one's already happened.
Yeah.
Hopefully you celebrated that one too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been the Maverick Hockey Live podcast brought to you by Dunkin. That's Jake Livingstone, and I'm Shane Frederick. We'll see you next time.